right, 1 Samuel chapter 20, verses 24 through 42. I'll give you a brief outline and then we'll just go into the questions because we don't have just a lot of time. Point number one, David's absence not questioned. David's absence not questioned. The second point, David's absence questioned. David's absence questioned. Point number three, Jonathan's arrows warned David. And then lastly, friends' agony expressed before departure. Friends' agony expressed before departure. So 4 points in this particular section. So let's just begin at question number 2 and we'll talk about some of the things that are happening in this particular section of 1 Samuel. When did the king sit down to eat meat? At the new moon. Why did he do that? Okay, number one, it was a holy day. Okay, it was the beginning of the month, and they always held a celebration, did they not? A festive celebration at that particular time. He also did it because he was hungry. That's what I thought somebody would say, but it's really because it was new moon, wasn't it? Okay, and they held a feast on the new moon. What was the location of the king's seat? Yes, the Bible says, and the king sat upon his seat as at other times, even upon a seat by the wall. Why by the wall? Yeah, folks, his seat's going to back up to the wall, right? Why? Yes, protection. Nobody can sneak up on me, and I can see everything that's transpiring in the room, right? Was there some paranoia to being a king at that time? Oh yes, it was dangerous, folks. There were individuals constantly conspiring against the king and wanting to try to get to the king in order to slay him. And so they took that position very seriously and knew the threats and the dangers that were involved and took all kinds of measures to protect themselves. Who's the ruler of North Korea right now? Kim Jong-un, right? Have you heard of some of the precautions he takes when he goes traveling? You go Google it, guys. He takes his own porta potty with him. That is no kidding. His own toilet with him because he is fearful of sitting down on a toilet. He's scared that it will be diseased, that something will be put upon it, and they do all kinds of stuff in order to preserve their lives. And so it's not uncommon for a king to do that. What other men were at the king's table that day? 2 are named. Yes, Jonathan, who is the king's son, and Abner, who is he? No, he is the captain of the king's forces. Okay, the captain of the... Not that I know of. He may be, but I don't know. I just got 1 Samuel 14:50, but he may be kin. I'd have to go back and do some looking upon that. Who was missing? Yes, David. And David's place was empty. Folks, the plan was in full gear, was it not? What was the purpose of David's absence? To what? That was the lie that was told. But what was the purpose of David's absence? To see how Saul would respond, right? That's why he was absent. How is he going to respond to my being absent? Okay? If he responds one way, that's a good thing. If he responds another way, then that's a what? That's a bad thing. Okay? I got a lesson down here, folks, and it's this. An empty seat is never good. An empty seat is never good. Jonathan had told David, and thou shalt be missed because thy seat will be what? Will be empty. There is loss and sorrow and grief expressed by those who see the empty seat. Okay? When Jonathan came in And he took his place at the table, and he looks over to where David is supposed to be. Do you think Jonathan missed David? Yes. Now, folks, whatever feeling you think Jonathan experienced on that day is the same feeling that faithful members feel when unfaithful members forsake the assembly. Okay? We know where you sit, especially in a little church like this. We know where you sit. Now, a few of you trying to, confuse me every now and then by moving around a little bit, okay? But we know where you sit. And when you're not here, guess what? Your seat is empty, right? And guess what? You're missed. You are missed. I just wrote down this: no time together, no love that is expressed, no ability to catch up on the news, a lost opportunity to strengthen a bond of friendship. That's what was missed that morning, wasn't it? Or that day when David was not there. True or false? Saul asked where David was. False. Nevertheless, Saul spake not anything. That's day number 1. Remember, how long is the feast going to go on? 2 days. And the first day, Saul didn't say anything whatsoever. Do you think that was a positive sign to Jonathan? Yes. Why do you say that? Okay, yeah, they were looking for reaction, right? And so he wasn't elated, so he didn't say anything to say that I miss him, but he didn't act negatively toward him. And Jonathan, what did Jonathan think about Saul right now? What had he already told David? Yeah, he doesn't really have anything against you. If he had something against you, I would know it, right? So the first day passes, nothing is said, everything seems wonderful. I bet Jonathan is just elated, don't you? But I got to thinking about this. Where's David? Yeah, he's out in the field hiding, right? And I'm wondering, don't you wonder what David is wondering? Here he is in hiding. He's thinking, okay, it's 12 o'clock. They're eating right now. Don't we do that? Okay. We do those kind of things, right? And he's thinking in his mind, okay, they know that I'm not there now. And I wonder what's going on in that little room of festivities. I wonder what Saul's saying. I wonder if he's gotten mad, because that's the sign, is it not? And here he is. He's just out there what? Just wondering and waiting, isn't he? Pretty tough. Larry?
I don't know if others do it or not, but I've had to miss a couple services because of dental. But at 10 o'clock, if I'm not here, I think, well, they're starting worship.
Oh, yeah. I do it too.
At 11 o'clock, maybe 11:30. He preached overtime, so.
Or an elder took a long time making announcements or something like that.
But at 11 o'clock, they're winding up now, and then at about 11:15, they're in Bible study now.
Yep.
And I wonder if you missed a lot, if you ever thought about that at 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock and 7 o'clock on Wednesday.
I bet you finally reach a point you don't even think about it anymore. Your heart gets hardened, Take, for instance, tonight. We're going to be back at 5:30. Several of us will. And there'll be several of you here right now not be back. And you've been gone so many times, so much that, I don't even think about their worshiping down there. No big deal. But if you're faithful and you're steadfast, see, David would be missing this feast. He was there on a regular basis, was he not? Every full moon. Every new moon, a feast was held. So he was there. It was a regular part of his activities, and now he's absent. I bet you he's wondering what in the world is going on at that feast. And that's the way it ought to be. Why didn't Saul get upset? Why didn't he get bent out of shape? Why didn't he even question where David was on day 1? What did he say? For he thought something hath befallen him. He is not clean. Surely he is not clean. Now, guys, remember we talked about today the defilement of Israel, right? there were many things that could happen to a Jew that would make them unclean for a day. Okay? You touch a dead animal, guess what? Unclean for a day, right? If one of your relatives died and you were there and had to deal with that, you're unclean for the day. And there were certain rituals of purification that you had to go through in order to cleanse yourself, and you'd be unclean for the entire day. You weren't supposed to be, in association with others and make them unclean, and then you could come back and be part of, the regular activities. So Saul, in his mind, thought, well, he's not here today, so surely there's a good reason he's unclean. Now, what I love about that is this. David's faithfulness was such that Saul only reasoned that David had a good excuse for not being at the feast that day. He did not reason that David had missed intentionally, and this should be the kind of reasoning that others use about us when our seats are empty from worship. Guys, if we're not here, the rest of the brethren miss us. They see our seat is empty, and what they ought to think, I know he's got a good reason not to be here. Not that he just didn't want to come. Right? And see, Saul had that kind of an attitude even toward his enemy, David, didn't he? He knew this is not David's normal practice. He's usually here. And, our habits, other people are watching, and other people know, and other people see. And, they tell a lot about who we are, don't they? And if you miss, people know. If you're here, people know. And we develop a reputation, don't we, by what we do or don't do. It's hard. It's hard sometimes, But the difference is it's not our normal practice, It's when it becomes your normal practice, well then it's almost as if people don't expect you to be there. And then when you show up, everybody says, what? What are you doing here? That's a sad question to say to people who are supposed to be here. What are you doing here? That's sad. I hadn't even thought about that. May have to write an article on that. What did Saul ask about David on the second day of his absence, though? Yes, and it came to pass on the morrow, which was the second day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Saul said unto Jonathan his son, Wherefore cometh not the son of Jesse to meet, neither yesterday nor today? Now he's upset, isn't he? Now he's concerned, and now he's really wondering what in the world is going on. And curiosity now has the better of Saul, and it's pretty interesting. Again, the plan of David is what? It's being executed, isn't it? David is the one who came up with this plan. Jonathan told him, whatever you want me to do, we'll do, right? To see how Dad is going to respond to you. See how the king is going to respond to you. So this plan of David's is still in full gear. And, I bet Jonathan is just going, what's he going to say today? It's not going to be long till he finds out exactly what he says. In which town did Jonathan say David had asked to go? Bethlehem. Yes, and Jonathan answered Saul, David earnestly asked to leave me to go to Bethlehem. For what purpose? Yes, to be with his family, right? Okay, to be with his family. And had he been almost commanded by a brother to be there? Yeah, as far as that was the story. And he said, Let me go, I pray thee, for our family hath a sacrifice in the city. And my brother, he hath commanded me to be there. And now, if I have found favor in thine eyes, let me go away, I pray thee, and see my brethren. Therefore, he cometh not to the king's table. Was that does it seem like a good excuse? First, it's family, right? And family usually is fairly important. Secondly, it was a command, wasn't it, by an older brother. It was a sacrifice that he was attending, not just, just a little, card party or something. They're going to go play Uno. It's a sacrifice. They did not have Uno back then, so don't go. Vic thought they had Uno back then. But he wasn't going for just a frivolous purpose, right? Family, commanded, a sacrifice. It seems like a wonderful excuse, and Jonathan said, yes, it's okay, right, to go. Man, there must have been something in the manner in which Jonathan said it. You know it? Must have been something. Saul was glad David could go see his family. Oh, that's false, isn't it? And Saul's anger was kindled against who? Jonathan. Not against David. His anger is kindled against Jonathan. How did Saul describe Jonathan? Now, who is Jonathan? His son. It's his son. Your own boy. How did he describe him? Shoo, the son of a what? Perverse, rebellious woman. Man. Saul married her. See, we don't think about that, do we? Perverse, crooked, bent, twisted, to do wrong, commit iniquity, rebellious. One who is rebellious, one who is involved in rebellion. Thou son of a perverse, crooked, twisted, rebellious woman. Wow. That's a beautiful description of that gal, isn't it? Somehow, and folks, I don't know how, Saul picked up on what Jonathan was doing, isn't he? He picked up on the fact that Jonathan is protecting David, right? And he knew that immediately. Yeah, it's easy, isn't it? How he said it. Well, wouldn't you love to have been a fly on the wall? Okay, maybe not the wall because he's not too good with a spear, and he may have hit the fly instead of his son. But some say that the words could be translated this way: son of an unjust rebellion. Okay, instead of a rebellious woman, son of an unjust rebellion, indicating that he was in rebellion against his own father. Some say that he was merely insulting Jonathan by reproaching his mother. Can that happen? Yeah, you reproach your mother, then guess what? It's a reproach on me. Okay, and so it just shows the anger and the hostility of who? Saul. He is one mad individual. One man make this statement: abusive language always argues a mean, weak, malevolent heart. Whew. That's pretty good, isn't it? Abusive language always argues a mean, weak, malevolent heart. Man, that's good, guys. Okay? When you speak properly, when you speak cleanly, when you speak appropriately, even when you're angry, okay, it manifests what? A strong, pure heart, doesn't it, before God? So we have to be very careful. Our words are indicators of what? Of what's on the inside, isn't it? Our minds, absolutely. So we have to be very, very careful. And Saul's extremely upset with Jonathan. Who had Jonathan chosen to his own confusion, according to Saul? Yes, the son of Jesse. It's interesting that he never calls him what? David. He never calls him by his name. Okay? Do not I know thou hast chosen the son of Jesse to thine own confusion? Confusion. Folks, that word literally means shame. To your own shame is what the word means. Okay? Who should he have been standing with as far as Saul is concerned? Should have been standing for his father, the king. And you're not. You've chosen Jesse over who? Me. Shame on you. That's what he's telling him. Shame on you. What did Saul mean when he said, and under the confusion of thy mother's nakedness? That's a weird statement, isn't it? The word confusion is the same word as used before. What does it mean? Shame. Now put that word in there. Under the shame of thy mother's nakedness. It was a shame that your mother ever gave birth to you based upon what you've done here today. That's what he said. The nakedness was the day of what? The day that he was born into the world. And to the shame of thy mother's nakedness. She brought you into this world, and now look at how you're acting. You're making that birth a what? A shame to your mom. Okay, so pretty bold words that he uses against his son. For as long as the son of Jesse lived, Saul knew who and what would not be established. Jonathan and his kingdom. For as long as the son of Jesse liveth upon the ground, thou shalt not be established, nor thy kingdom. Had the kingdom been ripped from Saul? Yeah. Folks, he'd been rejected, had he not? And when God rejected him, what he meant by that is what? Not you nor your lineage will continue as king of Israel. Okay? And what gets me about it is that Jonathan seems perfectly okay with this, doesn't he? Was Jonathan of a different heart than Saul? Yeah, much different heart, right? Saul is not too respectful of the will of God. Has he manifested that at least twice? Really more than that at this particular point in time, but there's been two huge sins that he's committed with regard to the will of God, right? He offered sacrifice before Samuel came, and he didn't utterly destroy the Amalekites. Both of them manifested his rebellious spirit against God, and so God totally took the kingdom away from him. Saul does not seem to understand the words of the prophet of God in 1 Samuel 15:28. And Samuel said unto him, the Lord hath rent the kingdom of Israel from thee this day, and hath given it to a neighbor, not a family member, a neighbor, he says, that is better than what? Better than thou. Okay, guys, the kingdom was totally taken from Saul. Wherefore now, send and fetch him unto me, for he shall surely blank. He shall surely die. You know where he is. He's not gone to Bethlehem. I know he's not gone to Bethlehem. Go get him and what? Bring him here so I can kill him. Guys, this man's heart is badly diseased, isn't it? All he can think about is David, and all he wants to do is kill that young man. Yes?
Do you think that Saul was really trying to turn Jonathan against David, because Jonathan was not going to be able to be the succeeding king?
He may have. You know, he may have been trying to convince him that this is not a good alliance that you have. You know, he very well could have. There may have been a lot more behind his words than what are there. Be interesting to talk to him, but I don't think we'll get to. Do y'all? If you know what I mean. If you do, send me a message. What two questions did Jonathan ask his father? Why should he be put to death? There's question number one. What's number two? What hath he done? Guys, if you're going to convict someone, if you're going to treat someone badly, if you're going to kill someone, then you need a good what? You need a good reason to do it. And Saul has absolutely no reason other than what? I'm jealous. I'm envious. I hate him. That's the only reason that he has. True or false? Saul tried to take Jonathan's life with a javelin. Man, and Saul cast a javelin at him to smite him. His own who? His own son. Whereby, what's that? Nope. Or these two young guys are quick. Whereby Jonathan knew that it was blank of his father to slay David. Determined of his father. Did David already know that? Yeah, he already knew that, didn't he? And that's why he didn't want to show up and be killed. That word determined means to end, to cease, to finish, to complete, to prepare, to consume, to be accomplished, to be determined, to be plotted in a bad sense. Okay? There's absolutely no changing of whose mind now. Saul's mind. Wow. How did Jonathan arise from the table now? And Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger, the Bible says, and did eat no meat the second day of the month. Kind of destroyed the atmosphere, didn't it? You know, have you ever been at a feast like that? Where a couple of them party, got angry at one another, fighting with one another, just destroyed the whole atmosphere. Christmas is gone. Thanksgiving is blown, you know. This isn't good. Yes, ma'am. No, nobody knows, as far as we can tell. Okay, the anointing was at a private ceremony with just the family of. Oh yes. I think. See, God had indicated that there's going to be another. Okay, and with David's popularity, with his rise in power among the people, they can see what's going on. They can see that it's going to be this guy right here, most likely. And so even Jonathan knows it, because he's going to make mention of this in before he departs, right? And a very, very interesting statement that he makes. Fierce anger, burning anger. Okay? Burning anger. Jonathan was grieved for David. True or false? True. Okay? That little word grieve there means worry, pain, anger, to grieve, to hurt. What did Jonathan believe his father had done to David? Because his father had done him shame. Okay? His father had done him shame. That little word shame there means to wound, to insult. Folks, reputations are valuable things, are they not? Okay? And the minute we go around attacking an individual's reputation, trying to destroy that reputation, trying to destroy the man, we got problems. Okay? We've got some bad problems. We need to be very careful about tainting the reputation of another person. We certainly do not need to spread lies about them. Even if we know it's true, we may not need to say anything to others. You know it? Folks, even if a person has a flaw, does it mean I have to tell everybody about it? No. I don't have to tell everybody about it. True or false? Jonathan went into the field the following morning. True. What did Jonathan tell the lad that was with him to do? Yes, you go find the arrows. Jonathan shoots the arrows, right? And what does he tell the lad? Huh? Yes, the arrows are beyond you. What did that let David know? It's time for you to run, David. I put this question down. I wonder how David must have felt when he heard the cry coming from Jonathan's lips, because now he knew that I'm going to have to leave family and friends and position all behind, doesn't he? He now has his answer, doesn't he? I got to get out of Jerusalem. Let's go down to question 31. How many times did David bow before Jonathan? 3 times. Verse 32, and they kissed one another and wept one with another. Folks, this will be the last time David and Jonathan are together for a long, long time. You know it? I don't know exactly the span of time, how many months or years, but David is about to begin his flight from Saul, and it's going to be months before these two individuals meet again. In fact, they're only going to meet, as far as we can tell from the biblical record, one more time. Okay? And it's when David is in the woods, Jonathan is going to go out to him and strengthen his hand in the Lord, the Bible says. And after that, we have no indication that they saw one another. And Jonathan fell in an untimely death, didn't he, in battle. Until David exceeded, and Jonathan said to David, go in peace. Go in peace. Who was between Jonathan and David and between their seed? The Lord. Guys, that's just unbelievable. For as much as we have sworn, both of us in the name of the Lord, saying, the Lord be between me and thee, and between my seed and thy seed forever. And he arose and departed, and Jonathan went where? Into the city. Folks, David's flight has begun. Okay? He's going to flee to a city of priests in our next lesson, and that is not going to end pretty. Okay? It's not going to end pretty. Thank you, thank you.